Welcome to the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, a fabulous, non-binary, neurospicy, ordained queerdo with a fascination for all things cycles, symbolism, and patterns.
And I'm Moonkittee, your queer femme, poly kitchen witch, and proud geek. Today's topic is queer love magic. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Yeah, well, I was not prepared to talk about St. Valentine.
Well, yeah, and we're not really going to. Again, it's the idea of it is February 14th,
It is,
which is Valentine's Day,
which is
celebrated
seen as a
widely
celebration of love.
as the idea of a celebration of love. And as queer folk, we always hear about how our love is different, and it is. But also, as witches and pagans, I don't know about you, but one of the first things I ever get with tarot readings and everything else is give me a love reading. Give me a love reading. Does this person love me? What do I need to do to get this person to love me? And it's like, whoo, love magic. That's a whole topic that we can just go
I'll do a
into.
relationship spread for you, Tower. Oh,
Right.
well, this person's here to teach you some things.
Right. Your love spread is the Tower, the Three of Swords, and the Nine of Swords, past, present, future. Right there.
But, there's a magic to love itself. It does deserve to be celebrated. It has
Absolutely.
so many aspects to it. It is kind of, in and of itself, a magical energy.
Hmm.
People
Oh
do
yeah.
weird and amazing and magical things for love.
Hmm.
Leaps of faith for love.
Hmm.
And sometimes love is what drives us forward. It keeps us bonded to our humanity, to one another. So, I mean, it's an important idea and
Hmm.
archetype and energy, and it's worth having a look at because it definitely has some magical properties.
Yes, absolutely. No, everything we do, at least in my magic practice, is done with love and with the intent of love. It's just a matter of what kind of love are we talking about. But,
And absolutely, there's definitely different flavors of love.
hmm.
But I definitely, I feel like in days and ages where things are getting a lot harder and there's a lot of hate being encouraged and spouted, sometimes we have to double down on the love
Hmm.
for ourselves, for humanity, for our fellow humans out there that are also struggling on multi levels.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to love harder.
Yeah. And I want to remind anyone, if you're hearing this at a later date, we are recording this in 2025, uh, 2 weeks after a contentious presidential election and the reinstatement of a president that does not always have love for queer folk or people who are not Christian. So
Or
this is
mainstream
definitely
anyway.
right. So it or different in any way, like you said. And so we're not going to get political on there, but we're going to talk about queer. But again, to give you a context of where we are sitting right now as we're talking about
Time,
queer
space.
love magic, I don't think we can separate our time and place from
Yeah.
this topic. So you have been warned.
Yep. Love harder. That's been my mantra. Have to love
Exactly.
my people harder.
But speaking
Oh,
of love, what are some of the things that what are the famous quotes? What do we think about when we think about love? And I'm kind of looking and thinking from a pagan perspective. We there's a lot of pop culture references that we can go into forever and have a 30-minute episode that's just on pop culture references about love. But from
yeah,
that
how many
pagan perspective,
poems, movies, novels.
right?
Their love is an industry that has its own candy.
Hmm. Happy St.
But
Valentine's Day.
but yes, coming at the witchy perspective, the first quote that, and I don't know why this one pops in my head because I've never done the Thelema path, but I know I've often heard, "Love is the law, love under will."
I love it.
I believe credited to Aleister Crowley.
Which, again, potentially problematic, but the idea behind the concept is solid.
Well, and that ties back to, like you said, in your practice, you do things intentionally and
Hmm.
love. by putting your love energy into the world. And I vibe with that.
The one that I tend to think of for me that first pops in my head is Love as Thou Wilt. And I don't know who it's attributed for. I tend to think of it out of a book series, which I cannot remember the name of, but if you know, you know. But I know it's a concept, and it kind of mirrors that idea of and it harm none, do as thou wilt. Love as thou
Very.
wilt is that kind of thing as well.
That makes me think of, obviously more into the queer world, but one of our big, I don't know, phrases, mottos is love is love. All right.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter what my love looks like or how I express it or whom I choose to love in this life, and they don't have to fit in your boxes. Love is just love. And
Hmm.
how can you eat love?
Right.
That kind of thing.
And then the other one I think of is love for life in all its forms is the basic ethic of witchcraft. And that's Starhawk. And that kind of resonates because Starhawk, when I first starting my magical practice years ago, those are the books that were readily available. Now, are they still apt and comparable today? Maybe, maybe not. But the concept again is that idea of love for life. I think, like you said, love is love, and love for life is that
Mhm.
basic ethic, that basic tenet of witchcraft.
And a phrase that I remember hearing over and over again, because one of the things that was my favorite when I was a baby pagan was the charge of the goddess.
Mm.
That in rituals we would often recite to invoke the goddess.
Hmm.
And one of the lines is, "All acts of love and pleasure are my rituals." And that was always felt very powerful for me. But
Hmm.
that was credited to Doreen Valiente.
Nice. I love it. Now, we can talk about love magic without addressing first and most important rule, if you have that, you can call it that in the principle of working with love magic, and that is
Oh, I don't know, rule or ethics, perhaps, but
yeah, maybe ethics is the better way to put it.
right, consent. Do not cast spells for or on others without their consent, without their knowledge. It will backfire. It's not pretty. Don't do it. It's there's consequences to doing stuff like that. So
Hmm.
the ethics of it is to not do things like that without somebody's consent. So if you have somebody you're infatuated with and you want to make them fall in love with you, cast spells that brings love your way. Cast spells on yourself, but don't be like, oh, here, drink my love potion. Like that never goes good in the fictions and the mythologies.
Right. I don't know if anyone else loves practical magic as much as I do, but I mean, it's a pretty good example in a couple of different
It
places of why you don't cast love magic on others. Yes, it's a fictional movie and everything else, and there's a lot of things with it, but
tells the
it
story well.
it tells a story well of again casting love magic on others. You're interfering with their autonomy.
Yeah,
And that kind of goes back against would you want someone to interfere with your autonomy to fall in love with you, to make you fall in love with them if you're not
yeah,
interested? So it's really a challenging concept and thing to think about is that consent is
yep. Now, can you, with another consenting love slash lover, do magical work with the energy you share? Absolutely.
mm-hmm,
But awareness, consent, there's the ethics, right? We're
mm-hmm,
having this level of ethics of like, we're not doing this to take advantage of other people or to harm other people or to take away their autonomy. Yeah, that kind of feeling. So we're definitely talking about love magic, but we're going to give you tips and tricks for making sure that the focus is in a
mm-hmm.
place going to benefit you the best.
Right. And some of the different ways you can do that, there's so many things. There's so many books on love magic out there. There are so many different tools that you can use, any sort of spellcraft and everything else. But some of the most simple and easiest things to start working with is working with deities that are love based or have associations with love. Um, and they are across every culture,
Yeah.
every religion has some sort of love god or love goddess
It's
that
so
you can work with.
It's so funny how love itself, love is a word, but it
Hmm.
describes something that is kind of indescribable. That's why I always say it also, it's a magic, right?
Hmm.
It's an energy, and words barely do it justice. And that's why there is so many poems and stories and works of art, and then also mythologies. It's such a
Hmm.
human experience to want to feel loved, to want to feel in love.
Hmm.
It's such a universal human level experience for so many people. It's a driving force for us. So, of course, it's going to be well woven into our mythologies.
Hmm. And love is not always romantic love as well. That's the other thing to think about when you're talking about love magic. Love magic can be involved opening yourself to deeper connections with friends or finding someone to come into your life to give you that kind of deeper connection that may or may not involve romantic love. And there's familial love. There's so many different
Yeah.
types of love, but we use that one word to describe, like you said, so many different things that
It doesn't really
sometimes it
do
can be
it justice.
challenging.
Those four little letters.
Yeah, four little letters that mean so much.
Yep.
And
And then you try to like define it or describe it, and you can go so many places with that.
mhm,
So, yeah, everybody's flavor of love, experience of love is all going to be different. And, there are people who have had, tainted love, not to break into song,
mhm,
but, there's also been love that hurt. Love hurts. See, I knew that I could get pop culture if I think about it. But, so there's like, it's complicated, much like I like to talk about the swords, the
mhm,
element of the swords where it has, it can go both sides. It can be for better or worse. It has its shadow side, so that keep that in mind when you're working with love and talking about ethics is, because love can, as much as it can be like pleasure and adoration and the reason to live, it can also be turn into like obsession and stalking and you know inappropriate whatever. So like yeah, you just have to be careful
mhm.
and aware.
And love will lead to grief, one way or another. And that's something you have to also accept. Um,
That is inevitable.
but
Grief is a passage. If you love, you will grieve it at some point.
mhm. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth loving. In
I love
the
that you bring that up too, because other than the fact that we all die,
mhm,
and we all want to like feel like we meant something in our life before we do, that maybe
mhm,
made life easier for people. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But beyond that, even relationships go through cycles.
mhm,
Friendship, sometimes you're friends for, I always say, like, not every relationship you enter into is a permanent arrangement,
right.
whether it's romantic or a friendship or
Mhm,
even with your parents. Like, you don't have, as an adult, you don't have to engage with your family unless it's healthy for you. If that's a healthy love, then
mhm.
that's so even loving relationships can be a temporary experience. And I've learned in my aged wisdom to appreciate it for what it is and not have to hold on to it so tightly that you can't let it come and go. Let
And
it
not every relationship or love structure that comes to an end was a failure. I think
Nope.
that's the other thing that we tend to put into concept is, oh, that relationship didn't last, therefore I failed. Because it
Right.
wasn't the happily ever after, it wasn't the eternity of being with that person. And that's not necessarily true in
I
any
like
way,
this.
shape, or form.
There's a common phrase that's a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Like you can meet people and they'll come
Hmm.
into your life for a season or for a reason, like to teach you a lesson,
Hmm.
or maybe you make lifelong friendships. But, when I was younger, I didn't know what that lifelong friendship looked like. But
Hmm.
now that I'm older, I'm like, damn, kind of cool growing old with some people.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But we have definitely got off track a little bit, but that's okay. So we were talking about love deities.
Oh, we got way off
We got
track.
way off track, but that's okay. Let's circle us back around.
Yeah.
So,
What
love deities, and what are, again, some of the love deities that are out there that are common?
Venus or Aphrodite is
Hmm.
like top tier, commonly depicted in art and
Yes.
spoken about in mythology and also astrology.
Hmm.
So very much a love goddess.
Right. The flip side to that, or the partnership with that, is Eros and Cupid. So
Right.
Aphrodite, Eros,
Chaos love
Venus,
baby.
Cupid. And it's really the thing that I do find, again, sorry, I'm trying not to be tangential, but I can't stop with this one, is I love in when you're going from Greek to Roman, they oftentimes stay very, very similar in description and aspect and everything else, except Eros. Eros goes from being this strong, love, like attractive, male designated figure to a short, chubby baby with an arrow.
Typical
That's
of
that one.
Valentine's iconography.
Exactly. But so that one, again, tangent, but I find it really funny. Everything else, Aphrodite and Venus, you'll see a lot of similarities in the way they're portrayed and depicted. But yeah, so that's the
Little
flip
ocean
side.
baby.
Aphrodite, Eros, Venus, Cupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the idea of like the little chaos baby making everybody fall in love with each other. Because
Right.
isn't that like so symbolic of like how hormones do drive us to couple up
Hmm.
and procreate at some point? Speaking,
Some of us.
right? Well,
Not
I'm
everyone procreates.
I mean, not everybody procreates, but there sometimes some people, not everybody, but a lot of people have to deal with that drive.
Yes.
The hormones kick in. So,
Other pantheons in Norse, there's Freya and Frigg.
yeah.
Also are, and I don't know a lot about the Norse pantheon, but I know those are both two goddesses that have different aspects of love and relationships to them.
Isn't Freya love cats? I'm just saying. Or am I thinking of someone else? I feel like I could be remembering this wrong, but like somebody has a chariot drawn by cats.
That is Freya. Yes.
Okay, see, uh, goddess after my heart.
Right?
Hello.
No, I heard love cats, and what heard in my head was love cats from The Cure. So I'm like going, how are you getting there? What are
Okay,
you talking
well,
about?
here's the thing. One of my patron goddesses is Bast,
Hmm. She's
and she is
also,
also very love goddessy.
yes, Hathor as well in
Yes,
the
right?
Egyptian pantheons.
Yep, those lovey love love, very deep feminine, empowered,
Hmm.
love to be pampered.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any other deities we?
Kuan Yin, the
Oh,
goddess of love and compassion, of
right.
course.
That's beautiful, right? And that's another one to consider is, just love for humanity and
Hmm.
compassion for people because, that ability to walk a mile in their shoes or have imagine what it might be like what someone else is going through and not in a way where we're comparatively suffering or trying to one up, but just in a way of like it's hard being
Hmm.
human and it's important to have compassion for ourselves. And
Hmm.
yeah, I love that she's a symbol of reminding that for ourselves and for others. In fact, there's been a message about that
Hmm.
being talked about in the world lately.
Now, I think right now this year we need her guidance globally for
So
love.
much. So yes, petitioning some love work with some of these deities and
Hmm.
archetypes and energies is definitely a very effective way. Like, how would you go about kind of establishing relationships or courting them?
That's good. There's so many different ways. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, and we're talking about how to work with deity. But a lot of it is, again, asking and
Yep.
seeing if they're interested, doing research about them, find out what it is and what draws you to them. And from there, incorporating them into your magical practice and asking the ways they want to be honored
Yep.
or worshipped. And honored and worshipped are two slightly different things. And depending on how your deity wants, it could be one or the other. So, but ultimately, when it comes down to if you invoke and work with the deities, what they're most likely going to do, and again, I can't speak to all, but what they're most likely going to do, and the aspect that seems to come up more often when you're talking about love magic, is how are you working on it on yourself
Yep.
before you work on others. So even deity, my experiences with deity, and you can definitely contradict me or experience because you have more, is when it comes to something like this, when you're trying to invoke an aspect of some sort, they're going to ask you how you are invoking it yourself because you are that first step in manifestation.
Yep. Agreed. It's kind of like, can you meet their vibe if you want to invite them in? Is it harmonious to you? So are you opening yourself to their vibe, to love? Are you working on, what are you doing for yourself to know that you're operating out of an energy of love? So that we were saying before, it starts with you.
Mhm. And you can put that into spell work. You can put that into candle work, crystal
Yep.
work,
An
ritual,
altar
past. Yeah, exactly. All of those different ways that
and
you.
your self-care even, you
Mhm,
can gather different oils or soaps or, you know, uh, my girlfriend calls it an everything shower. I did one of those everything showers where I just took care of everything,
mhm,
so that can also be like a ritualistic act of intentional self-love
mhm,
or other ritualistic acts of intentional self-love.
mhm. Different adult only content there, but yes, there's lots of different things, but it comes down to that idea of being mindful and taking care of yourself. And again, you can open yourself, just sitting there being mindful and opening yourself to that possibility of love coming to you
Yep.
and love coming to you in the correct way. I
Yep.
think that's the biggest thing is you don't want to just say, hey, love, come on in, because you open it up to anything and everything that's coming in. But love come unto me in the best way for me
Mm-hmm.
will bring in what it is you're actually seeking and what you're looking for. You're going to find someone or something that complements you, and you're going to be able to someone who complements you, which it just may not be in the way that you think that you want. And that's the thing with like love spells and someone else, circling it back to the beginning, is you may think you want that other person desperately. And sometimes you get what you want and you realize, oh my God, this is not what I wanted. I did not know about XYZ about this person. And you may have overlooked someone else who may have better compliment, or you stopped yourself from opening the door to someone else who may have been someone who was that person that needed to be in your life for that time, reason, or season.
Yep. And so sometimes that's why building that relationship with yourself and learning to listen to yourself and learning to call in what's healthy for you. Because sometimes um, people do crazy stuff for love and
Oh goodness, yes.
always, not always for the best reasons and not always for the best results. So yeah, it also does take a lot of, self guidance, listening
Hmm.
to yourself and like, here's like a one of the phrases that you commonly hear, like NRE, is new relationship energy. And that's
Hmm.
you can't get enough of this person because it's so new and exciting and it hasn't gotten old yet. And sometimes we're like, don't lose your mind to the NRE, don't
Hmm.
start calling up the U-Hauls yet.
Right. Also known as the honeymoon phase for heteronormative folks.
Right. Right.
Queer and poly people tend to call it NRE, the heteronormative cis allo sexual tend to be
Yeah.
honeymoon phase or honeymoon idea. And again, it's that idea of, like you said, everything in the beginning is new and exciting.
Yep,
Is
can
it
be
still new and exciting?
intoxicating.
Yeah. Is it still new and exciting a year from now, 10 years from now?
Was it love or was it lust?
Exactly.
Because that's again, like we're talking about different flavors of love. Is it romantic? Is it not? Is it
Hmm.
passionate? There's still so many different flavors and experiences of love. And, by all means, go out there and live your best life,
Hmm.
but don't hurt yourself.
Right.
Don't
And my
keep
favorite
hurting yourself.
my favorite lesson is you can be head over heels in love with someone and not like them very much. That's a terrifying thing to think about, but if you've been in that relationship, you know and you understand. And I've seen so many people do that. Some love is toxic and it's not the
Yep.
best for your higher self.
Yep. So very much. being intentional about what kind of love you're calling in is
Hmm.
important. So, coming down to that, in spell work, it makes me think of like the Lover's card in tarot. I was
Hmm.
always taught, and I know I think you have a little rant for this one, and I want to hear what you have to say, but I was always taught that when the Lover's card in tarot comes up, stop what you're doing. No, I'm just kidding. Like, it's calling for a deep dive for you to truly evaluate what it is that you want, what it is you truly desire. And I don't know that everybody thinks, especially like the well-conditioned people pleasers in life,
Hmm.
if they stop and ask themselves that. It's
Hmm.
not as common. We're always like, oh, I want to make this person happy, or I love them and they need me, and and but sometimes it's like you have to stop in a truly reciprocal, healthy, loving situation. What is it you truly desire? What are your needs? What is it you want?
Hmm.
And you have to know that in order to
Hmm.
call it in. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
you may have to learn the hard way of what doesn't work for you.
Hmm. And my rant has less to do. I love that aspect, and I've actually kind of adopted that aspect and that idea of the lover's card when I'm doing tarot readings now. My big pet peeve with most tarot decks and everything else, because I am a tarot deck whore. If you've been around at any point in time, you know this. I have a ridiculous collection of tarot decks, and I keep collecting them more because they're little art pieces that just feed my little dragon hunger soul. But my problem with the Lover's deck is in so many things, and especially the RWS basis systems, is they're all very, very binary. And it's
Right,
always male, female. And
right,
being queer and being in a polyamorous relationship where we are in a poly V with my partner who's gender fluid and having a meta in my life and all of us living together in the same house, it's really different and hard to see, oh, here's a heteronormative idea of male and female when that doesn't actually fit or resonate with anything
right.
in my body or in my aspects or who we have. And so for me, my biggest pet peeve is that area. But the good thing is with the change in the RWS, there are so many queer or queer friendly decks that are out there that are taking and turning things on their heads. And I can't list them all because I don't know if there is a comprehensive listing of them. That might be something to work on someday.
Yeah,
But there are so many decks that take it to the basic ideas of the RWS, but do things like turn that deck into cats, like the Blooming Cat Tarot, or your Under the Bed Tarot with Gentle Monsters, or other tarot cards that are using symbology. So they're not actually using human representations, but they're using figures or other symbolic items that take that and take the gender and that binariness out of it. And then there are other tarot decks, like one called the Star Spinner that I love, and it has in it three different lovers cards. So it has a binary version, it has a lesbian version, it has a gay version. So you can pick and choose. And a lot of artists are including multiple types of lover cards. So you can identify or change out what you want. Me, I tend to leave all three in. A, because I love love, but also they each to me represent something slightly different, especially in the way that you said when you're asking yourself that question, what do I want? Each has a slightly different nuance of flavor. So
yep,
I'll put that in there. And then there are other decks like the Numinous Tarot, which a mutual friend of ours, your bestie, turned us on to a
yep.
decade ago or more at this point,
Wow.
and it's just amazing. And it's a completely gender fluid, genderless deck that just takes all of the gender out of it. And their lover's card is a polyamorous series of monks. Actually,
I
it's
always
really
feel like
kind of cool.
gender freedom. Like
Yeah.
there's like a feeling of gender freedom in that
Hmm.
deck. Yeah. So yes, and so there's all kinds of different and queer creators that kind of take those things into
Hmm.
consideration and have given us the art that we need that helps, us actually be able to identify
Hmm.
with, yeah.
So yeah, so if you are definitely looking and follow tarot or use tarot as a tool in your practice,
Uh-huh.
and
Spell
you are
work.
looking for for queer decks and things. There are so many out there. And I think we've talked about queer tarot, and I know we're going to be doing an upcoming series on queer tarot or revisit it again. But I don't know, maybe we just need to do an all deck list at some point in time. I will stack them beside me and go through each, but I don't know. Actually, I do that on my YouTube channel, or was starting to do that on my YouTube channel once upon a time, but now there's more of that. But there's so many different cool things out there. But outside of tarot, as an aspect, there are so many other different ways to practice love magic. Like you said, there's spell work, in your daily practice, affirmations. Again, that whole idea of I am Stuart Smalley. Again, if you know, you know. I'm good enough. I am strong enough. And God damn it, people like me. Or gosh darn it, people like me. There is something to be said in that affirming to yourself and opening yourself up to it that does
I am
bring
worthy
in.
of, yep. I am worthy of receiving the kind of love that I give.
Mm-hmm.
The affirmations can be very powerful.
I am worthy of receiving love even when I am not lovable.
Yeah. Because I feel like on the baseline, we're all deserving of love. We are
Mm-hmm.
lovable. We just get in our own way sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes we can be our world's worst critics, but we're
Oh,
still
yeah.
deserving of
All
love.
the time, I think we're our own worst critic, except for maybe a very small percentage of the population.
Yes.
But no, I mean, affirmations, meditations, tea breaks. I love taking a tea break. And if you're talking about wanting to do this with a love magic twist, get some little heart-shaped cookies. Make some little heart-shaped cookies.
Aw.
Sit down there with a cup of tea and just enjoy that warmth and that feeling of contentment and the happiness that brings in as a very potent, powerful, kitchen witchy love magic.
Well, and also think about, how love is, we were talking about before, it's an energy, it's a vibration.
Hmm.
So there's also ways of raising your energy and your vibrations.
Hmm.
And anything that has to do with love energy or passion or hormones
Hmm.
sometimes even can be part of love magic.
Sometimes reading a steamy story can also inspire or open you up to, again, bringing the idea of love into yourself and into your heart, into your home.
Yep, exactly. So love is very approachable, and it doesn't necessarily have to be connected to another person in order
Mm-mm.
for it to be accessible and tangible.
Yeah. Like I said, if you haven't learned yet from this conversation, love yourself first,
Yep.
or at least learn to try to love yourself. It's not saying you're not worthy of love if you're not there yet, but
And one of my favorite quotes that I will summarize is
mhm,
sometimes it's people who have a lot of trauma or experienced a lot of, toxic love, really struggle to love themselves,
mhm,
really fed into the self-critic. And in order to maybe kind of get a little bit past yourself being the focus, uh, choosing to live a life that you can love is one of my favorite approaches is choose to do things that bring you pleasure, that bring you joy, that bring love into your life, that raises you to the vibration of love, whatever it is. Maybe you really like the endorphins you get from going on a walk or sitting in nature and just watching the world go by, or nourishing your body in a particular way. But even the littlest, most simplest choices, choosing to live a life you can love,
mhm.
can
And
be
when you,
a brave act of self-love without making yourself the object of love.
I love that.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but no, truly do. I think that's a fabulous way of thinking about it. And to piggyback off that idea, when you open yourself to those small moments of love, like I said, build that life that you want or you think you could love. Again, we're reminding ourselves that it's not always about romantic love. It can be that familial, platonic, ancestral, those connections with people, but often one will lead to the other. So if you're desiring and you need some love and you have the ability, time, and energy, and you get, say, a pet, that love and that bond that you have with that pet can then open you up to maybe if you say it's a dog, you can go up and start getting up and taking those walks. And now you're going out and getting that exercise and that energy and that love is flowing back in. And on that walk, you now may meet someone who you'd strike up a friendship with. And now you're building on these things that all come down from this act of starting a life where you want to go, and what a life that you could love, that started with something that turned into something else, that led to something else, that opened yourself up to the possibility of having love in whatever way that you want it.
Sorry.
It's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect, and it's lots of layers.
It's got a lot of layers, and it's very much a ripple effect. And here's the other thing I like to think about. Like, I know a lot of people value like popularity. You know, numbers on the screen of the social medias with the likes and the loves and if you feel like you need attention, you're not getting enough attention, you're not getting enough love, you feel neglected for any reason, one of the ways to kind of just sit for a moment and turn the tables on yourself is, am I giving out what I want to receive?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're just holed up and like, nobody loves me. But like, I can turn that on myself and be like, I'm going to go on and leave 5 comments that's just on 5 different social medias with no agenda other than to put love out into the world. And then it just reminds people out there that they're loved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or it could be like 5 text messages to 5 people that I know and tell them why I love them today. You know, it could be a different reason tomorrow.
Random acts of kindness.
And the idea of start putting out into the world that vibrational energy that you wish to attract. So like attracts like. Don't be a grumpy, curmudgeon-y, like pessimistic, you know, blah, 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 and then expect somebody to fall in love with you. Just saying. Like, do it your best to make sure that you are putting out there what you're wishing to receive. And if you are doing that, you might be dazzled by what comes your way, what just starts flowing back to you. Because love is within the realm of water more often than not, within the realm of the emotions, within the realm of the ebb and the flow. It is fluid.
All right. Is there anything that we missed? I think we have gone over a lot of stuff.
Well, I hope that this means that those who have endured us so far are going to go out and have a love-filled and lovely day. Well, with that, I express my gratitude for our listeners. I am so grateful for you joining us on this lovely day for this lovely topic. And if you liked what you hear, you know, make sure you send some love our way with thumbs up and stars and comments. We love hearing from you. We do genuinely love hearing from you.
And if there is a topic you want to know more about or an episode topic you would like to suggest, contact us at thequeerwitchproject@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, TikTok, for as long as it lasts, and Instagram with the handle @queerwitchproject. We upload every other week, though our social media is maybe a little bit slower than that. But at least on YouTube, we upload every other week. And remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Mwah.